It's the SNL Hall of Fame podcast. With Chief Conversationalist Bill Kenney. And now, curator of the hall, your host, JD.
The end was a little long there. It stayed to black, but hey, it's JD here, and welcome to what's left of the SNL Hall of Fame. On this momentous day, our once proud institution has been reduced to rubble. A few bricks, a dusty plaque, and don't worry about wiping your feet. I can barely make out the remnants of the mat. Well, two mats, actually. Rest in peace, Trivia Man. Rest in peace. One last time for posterity, the SNL Hall of Fame podcast is a weekly affair where each episode we take a deep dive into the career of a former cast member, host, musical guest, or writer, and add them to the ballot for your consideration. Once the nominees have been announced, we turn to you, the listener, to help decide who will be enshrined for perpetuity in the hall. And that's how we play the game. It's just that simple. How in the world are you doing, my friend, Chief Conversationalist Bill Kenney? You can, for the podcast listeners, you can take off that hazmat headgear now. You're safe, my friend.
Whew. I'm doing well, JD. A little melancholy, happy trails, but we've got a really fun one to get into before we walk through all the rest of this rubble and head out on that old dusty trail. So excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. And it's a celebration of, ultimately, it's a celebration of the greatest of the great. And we cede the decision-making to you, the listener. And as such, we get the results that we get. And I'm excited to take a look at them for sure. I don't know whether I'm going to be excited once I see them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. There's always, no matter what it is, there's always a little bit of trepidation when you leave the choice in the hands of the public, whether it's sports, politics, SNL, music. So, but yeah, I think for the most part, the SNL community, the hardcore fans, know how to get it right. So I think we're in for a fun treat here.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, let's stop dilly-dallying and get right into it. Let's take a look at the runners up. These are the people we determined are runners up because they are within 10 points of the threshold, which is of course 66%. So these 7 or 8 people ended up on the list and did not quite squeak in. So, buyer beware. Here you go. Starting from the bottom, we've got Rosie Schuster at 57.4%, Vanessa Bayer at 58%, Chevy Chase at 58%, Lorraine Newman at 59%, John Mulaney at 61%, Garrett Morris at 61%, Adie Bryan at 61%, Chris Parnell at 62%. This is a list that I would probably invert and push Lorraine a little higher or Garrett Morris a little higher. But yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with some of these choices. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think the whole conversation about Dave Grohl not getting in as a musical guest, if you can't get Dave Grohl in, who are you going to get in? The same with somebody like John Mulaney as a writer. You've got recency bias. You've got a guy who's hosted 6 times in the last 8 years, and he still can't get in. Like, if you don't remember Michael O'Donoghue or Franken and Davis because you're 20, 25 years old, okay. But Mulaney is out there. So that's kind of a shock to see that he couldn't quite get there, especially with how much people love Stefan, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's become an iconic brand almost.
Yeah.
Anybody on there that you would, if you could only push one over the limit, who would that be? And if you need time to think about it, I can do mine first.
You can go ahead if you like. I know who I want to say, but please, by all means.
Okay, this is I'm going to dedicate this to my friend Thomas Senna, and I agree. I would put an extra, I guess it would be 8 points on the ballot for Vanessa Bayer. I think Bill probably knows how many seasons she was on, but she was on at least 8, I think, and she was just a wonderful addition almost right off the bat, which is interesting when you look at now how long it takes for people to get their footing. It's like people are in their 4th season and it feels like they're in their first nowadays. But this is interesting to me. Interesting.
Yeah, and something that you can kind of point to with most of the names on this runners-up list is you don't want to call them second tier because they're definitely not that, but they were never the leading person in their cast. So does that hurt them? Getting this close, you see Parnell, he's behind Will Ferrell, he's behind Amy Poehler. Garrett and Lorraine obviously are behind. I mean, I guess the only exception would be Chevy as far as that goes, but he suffers from not being on as long. And Vanessa's in that category too. She straddles that Kristen Wiig era and then is there for the beginning of the Cecily Kate era.
That's true.
So yeah, is it kind of like, well, if it's only going to be the best of the best, there are people out there like that just, want that small haul. I don't think either one of us is like that. But there are people who are just like, Ken Griffey Jr. and Babe Ruth and close the hall. And that might be what some of these folks are suffering from.
Yeah, I think so. Small hall mindset.
Yeah.
Well, shall we take a look at our first entrant, inductee into the class of season 7?
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, we didn't get your pick to push you over. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I think I would say Chevy because listen, you can hold it against him that he's only on for 30 episodes as a cast member. You can hold it against him that he's an asshole as a host or in general. But he set the template for everything that was to come. Saying his name on SNL, the only person that people knew. There was no Google. There was no names at the beginning of the opening credits or no pictures with names at the beginning of opening credits for a long time. So Chevy was really the only one and became a superstar. And, it went to his head, but he had a lot to do with the success and them getting to a second season. And him leaving brought in people like Belushi and Aykroyd and Jane, gave them a chance to flourish. So I would put Chevy in definitely as a cast member, an exception to the rule as far as how little he was on the show.
I can only imagine if Saturday Night Live were covered then the way it's covered now, the uproar and the fear and the arguments, I suppose, as well in the different chat groups and podcasts, roundtables, all the rest of it, it would have sent just shockwaves, right? It was a big deal when he left.
Yeah. Just with the media they had at the time. You think about all the magazine covers that Chevy was on. And like, I can imagine the newspaper articles that were coming out all summer as the rumblings started to come out that is Chevy really going to leave? Like, he can't leave. This is his bread and butter. He's not going to go to Hollywood. And by the time you get to the 6th, 7th episode of season 2, is very clear what's about to happen, and it worked out well for everyone because we get all these other people in this original cast that get a chance to shine. We get Billy Murray coming in. Chevy obviously has a great movie career for a long period of time, but it's I can't imagine being in 1976 and this is the only person you really know. This is before Gilda and Belushi are household names, and your favorite person from your new favorite show is leaving. Yeah, it had to be a shock.
Yeah, I just I can't imagine when I look at the way we parse, you know, I can't even remember his name right now, Aristotle. You know, when
Right.
he left after one season as a featured player, it was like there was like weeks of coverage, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it on the SNN every week because it was so odd. I mean, look at Chloe Trost just last summer, the uproar of her leaving and being, just a featured player, being behind a lot of other heavy hitters, but had a really good rookie year. And for her to leave after one season was still something that was shocking and jolting. So take that, flip it on its head, and you've got Chevy leading the pack, leading the cast, leaving the show. Like imagine Kate McKinnon leaving after a season and 8 episodes. Like
You
people
can't
would have
imagine
lost their
it.
minds, right?
You cannot imagine it. Well, let's good pick.
Thank you.
Very divisive, right? He's just such an interesting person. But this next person is not, I would say, divisive. He's somebody that is very likable, and I'm not going to say he gets by on that because he gets by on his ridiculous talent. But it's just great that he seems like he's the most likable person as well. And that is, of course, our first inductee in the class of season 7, Martin Short.
Yes.
A
How
handful.
great is it to see this name up here?
Oh, so nice. So nice. It's just squeaks in though, like 66.05%. It's like, my goodness. But hey, he did it, and he did it on his first. No, this was his third ballot.
Third ballot, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of people who don't get in on the first or second that hang around until the fifth. So he's fortunate that he got the votes, but he's not fortunate because, again, I'll say it, he's just so talented, dating back to the time that we got to see him on SCTV and all the way through taking so many of those famous characters that came to life on SCTV, taking them over onto, Studio 8H and letting America and the rest of the world. I know America could see SCTV, but it just felt a bit Canadian at the time.
It did, and as far as myself, SCTV was something that I saw much later. That was something that came on after Late Night with Letterman. So, like talking late '80s, early '90s, where the reruns were shown. I didn't get to see it in its full bloom, and I mean, listen, Marty Short. Our friend John Schneider loves to bust me about his season as a cast member. One of the best one-season cast members of all time. I don't know. Maybe that list isn't too long after somebody like Billy Crystal, Martin Short, but he had a tremendous season in that Steinbrenner season, and then comes back to host only a year and a half later. So he comes in for that second golden era, promoting Three Amigos. He doesn't have a lot to do in that first episode,
Right.
but his next 4 episodes are bangers, and he's probably the only 5-timer to host all his episodes in one calendar month. So every one of his episodes is December. He's always there around the holidays, and I mean, his second one is really great. We see the first Celebrity Jeopardy. We get the Roxbury guys. He brings back Grimley. By the time he comes back in 38, he's doing Royal Doctor and You're a Rat Bastard, Charlie Brown. So, and then of course we get him at the Five Timers just last December. So yeah, I mean, an all-time classic guy, and I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, me too. Rightly deserved, richly deserved.
Yes.
Let's go to our next inductee in class of season 7. And then, funny enough, we're going to be joined by John Schneider to parse this list even further.
Yes.
My mouse doesn't seem to want to come out. Oh, there's my mouse. Okay. It was on the other screen. So there it is. John Lovitz. We're adding John Lovitz. This is his second ballot, and he earned 69.14%. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a slam dunk in this Hall of Fame that is so difficult to get into. I'm thrilled because he was one of my guys.
Yeah.
He was always on the podium for me of the men of that golden era, but he didn't have the gold or the silver. He typically had the bronze for me. I loved Dana Carvey, and I absolutely adored Mike Myers for a time. But I was going to say, even before him, Phil Hartman would be just a silver medalist just for being Phil Hartman, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But Lovitz coming in on the second ballot. I'm really thrilled that we can button up this show and have him in. We're tying it up, and there he's in. He belongs in there. He's part of the history.
Yeah, it kind of makes me warms my heart a little, because he isn't somebody that you see a lot of these days. And yeah, I mean, I just actually saw him do stand-up a couple weeks ago, and he's still a very, very funny guy. But he's not out there doing sitcoms. He's not out there doing, movies and things like that. So to think that he's still able to get almost 70% of the vote at this point is really great. He's one of my guys too. Even before I was watching this show, I knew his liar lines. Like, everybody was quoting that. And he had a stellar 5 seasons. And if he had come through this era, in the era where Pete Davidson disappears for 12 episodes and is still in the cast,
yes.
Or Cecily's going off and making movies and doing schmigadoon. Lovitz wasn't allowed to stay. He had to make a choice, and he chose to go make movies.
That.
Lauren wouldn't give him 2 weeks off at the beginning of the season, and he had to leave the show, which is bananas. Like he could have had another 3 or 4 years, and we'd be talking about him as maybe a Mount Rushmore, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're probably right. And just imagine so much more magic with, again, I'm going back to Phil Hartman, but they were really great together, and the magic that they could create on that stage and the Groundlings Theater. I was so choked up when I went to the Groundlings and I had to audition, and you auditioned on that stage in a group. It was like a cattle audition to see if you could go into level 1. And just to be on that stage, I was like, when I got time to do my thing, I did fine, but I was like in another world. I was almost out of body, because I was just like, I'm on this stage that these people,
right,
that I absolutely adore, Paul Rubens and Lisa Kudrow, and just a litany of others. Melissa McCarthy was part of the main stage cast when I was there, so it was just really cool. Yeah, and I don't know why I digressed there. I apologize.
No, I have warm feelings about that as well. I mean, I got to go to Groundlings a couple years ago, and it was like going into Fenway or Wrigley Field. Like, feel the history, and knowing people like John and Jan Hooks and the people you've mentioned. Like, they're such a rich History, almost more than Second City for me. That I love it.
Yeah,
love
absolutely. Well, let's invite in our friend John Schneider, and we will reveal the number one song on the countdown. I've been doing countdown so long now. But this is not a countdown. This is a Hall of Fame, and this is our headliner, inductee. That's right. There's only 3 people in this class, so the next person is part of that, and we'll go to our friend John right now, and we'll reveal that, and we'll discuss it all together. John from the
Hey guys,
SNN is here. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, JD. Thank you for having me. So nice to be here for the big final reveal.
Yeah, cool, right? Here it is.
Yes. No, it's awesome. Yeah, some great picks. Can't wait to dive in.
All right, let's go to it right now. The last inductee in the class of season 7. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. With 79% of the vote, which, okay, if John Lovitz is a slam dunk at 69%, she is a platinum Glover at 79%. This is a spectacular turnout for a first ballot. When you look, the comp is probably Kate McKinnon, and Kate McKinnon didn't get it on her first ballot, and that seems so strange to me. But here we are. John, what are you thinking of Cecily Strong and the other 2 for that matter?
Well, I think there's a class difference between Cecily and Lovitz and Marty. Sorry, Bill. But I think you're talking with Cecily and Lovitz, you're talking about 2 top 20 cast members of all time, most likely on most people's lists. Marty's a little bit of a different story. I think Marty is a lifetime achievement award for his contributions to the Saturday Night Live franchise. This is not a Hall of Fame for your role as a cast member in season 10, as it is written on the paper. But Cecily and Lovitz, totally deserving.
Wow, shots fired. Bill, what say ye?
I knew John wouldn't be able to let Marty go. Now, I thought we were more in agreement about host John as far as his hosting abilities. But yeah, obviously he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame on one season as a cast member. But yeah, I'm happy to see it, and I'm happy to see you squirm just a little bit, John.
I'm okay. I'm good. I think like like I said, Marty's contributions to the game would definitely make him deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. So regardless, like no doubt. But I think with Cecily and with Lovitz, you have significant contributions as cast members to the franchise that if you were to pluck them out of history, the whole thing looks a little different. Lovitz especially because of the pivot point when he came in to start. But Cecily just like held down for many years. I think she's still like the cast member. She's 3rd place in appearances in the history of the show as a cast member. So
really?
like,
wow.
Yeah, she was all over the show, did so many things, and never got the respect that I think that Kate got, because she just was so like naked eye. You could see it, how big of a star Kate was from the beginning. And it took a while for people to warm up to Cecily. But by the time that she left the show, I think that removing her was a bigger loss than people realized about how many times she stabilizes a sketch. So, you know, it seems recent to be able to be having this conversation about Cecily, but truly well deserving of her getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I like the feeling of Cecily Strong being in the Hall of Fame. Does it break down, John, like by episode when you look at the number of episodes or the number of sketches she's been on? Is there like a divisor at all, like that would?
Sure. Well, yeah, we tend to do a stat called sketch per episode average. So that's the sort of the equalizer between cast members of all eras. Now, if you want to get really deep with it, you can, you know, factor in cast size, but just for the exercise, I tend to look at it like, you know, I qualify like a minimum of 30 episodes. So for me, Cecily was a 4.51 for her career as in the SPE. I think like 4 and above is lock for Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
4.5 is great. That's 20th best all time, but there are some outliers in there with people who are only on for one season. So removing people like Randy Quaid, Janine Garofalo, Danny Dillon, Gail Mathias, and Charles Rocket, who were all on for, let's say, under 20 episodes, but had good sketch per episode averages in their seasons. Like Cecily is in the top 10 to 15 for SPE all time. So again, just a quantity stat there, but truly shows how much she was involved in during her time on the show. And to me, top 20 easily all time.
Yeah, I think so. And a similar thread with Lovitz when you say that she didn't get necessarily all the spotlight. She got the periphery of the spotlight. Lovitz to Carvey was sort of like that as well, because Carvey just absorbed so much of that spotlight. Just by dint of him being sent from the future to be the savior of sketch comedy on NBC or something.
Yeah, I think Phil as well. I mean, Lovitz was instrumental in bringing Phil onto the show, so I think he was okay with Phil taking that shine from him. Obviously, Dana was the one on his face that became the star, but Phil was the glue, as he's known. So yeah. I think that Lovitz sort of took a step back and squeezed himself out a little bit. But in season 11, you saw that he could take over the show, and maybe doesn't get the respect because season 11 is not considered a good season. It's considered a bad season. But had he, had time on the show, let's say he stayed on and Dana left the show, and then even Phil left the show, and like he had continued on, like did almost the Kevin Nealon run, I think then it's more noticeable how much of an impact he had.
Yeah. 5 seasons only. Okay, so let's reset here for a moment for anybody that is in the chat. There are some messages there, and I just want to see. Only 3. Yes, Shari says only 3, but she can say that now in person because she is going to join us. John, I'm not sure if you can stay on. If you can, that's great.
Yeah, I can hang out.
So absolutely hang out. And we're going to add Shari to the conversation now. Shari, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good.
You can wave for real this time because we always wave on the water cooler podcast, but nobody ever sees that. But now they got to see it. So that's great. I love it. Shari, rapid fire. What do you think? Hot take.
I am saddened. We had a bottomless ballot and we're only getting 3 people in. That just doesn't even make sense to me. I don't understand. I voted for like so many. I think there were only 2 I didn't vote for. I just don't. I don't understand at all.
John, was there a column on that spreadsheet for like votes per ballot? Like, did we push that number at all? By making it unlimited?
Yeah, I actually think making it unlimited made it harder to get people on in a way.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, because I think people who had limited to 15 in previous seasons had to make tough choices.
Right.
So I think that like the thought process went into it. And then here it was like, oh, well, I'm just going to put on the people I like. And then somebody else will obviously vote for everybody, So I think that I do think it's good to do the exercise. But, if this was to ever return, I do think that it is probably better to put a constraint on it so that people really have to make those tough choices, and then we see how many fall after that.
Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, I wish we were seeing more. It probably did split the vote in some ways, and I would have loved to seen it. My ballot was very big as well. I think we could have gotten at least 3 or 4 more others in. Yeah, I mean, look at some of those names that, like we talked about, the ones that just missed. Those poor writers, man. Boy, they just can't catch a break. Adam McKay at 32%. Really Odin Kirk at 24%. And the 2 lone musical guests there near the bottom. Oy.
And Josh Brolin Whose cornflakes did he pee in? The only one who wouldn't carry over if we did a season 8.
I think he suffers from, I mean, he got a lot of pub because of his great season 49 ep. But then when you look at the broader view of it, him only having the 3 episodes, one of them kind of being mediocre, it probably hurt him, especially when you see other names like Ham and Galifianakis, who didn't do much better.
No, that's true.
Jack Black, like there's other names where you go, okay, yeah, they probably should get in, and Brolin got pushed to the bottom of the list.
So if there were a season 8, your ballot would look like this, but without the bolded inductees. Shari, Bill and I already did this exercise, but you and John can do it now as well. Who is somebody that you would push to 66% if you could, to get them into the Hall of Fame for season 8, the hypothetical season 8?
It would definitely be a writer, and it would definitely be one of the women, probably Rosie, because she was there with Lorne. I mean, Anybody watched that great interview that they did on Not Ready for Primetime Project, where she talks about the fact that she was in overflow freaking seating. I mean, she does not get a lot of respect, and she was there when it was all being conceived. It's a shame, but yeah, I would definitely.
Sorry, they only put the X's in the overflow.
Yeah, true. That just doesn't seem right to me. I mean, their history, regardless. But you're right, John. He holds all the power, right? But yeah, I definitely think she deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. She was
came so close, and it's funny because I would get updates, and at one point, at the end of one update, John and I can sort of talk about this behind the curtain now. There was like 7 or 8 people that were going to get in. And I was like, yes, this is great. It was like 80 was in. Rosie Schuster was in. Lorraine and Lorraine and Garrett were both in, or maybe Lorraine was just under the threshold. It was like, wow, this is going to be great. And then the next update, it was like, meow, meow.
Yeah, but the honest reason for that, I think, is just that the people who, I want to say this carefully, tactfully, the people who are maybe more entrenched with Saturday Night Live voted early. Right. And then we got like more of the casuals jumping in towards the end, which allowed some of these people to drop, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Well, that would track. That would absolutely track. John, who would you push to the 66% mark? So far,
there's definitely a few. I would, just for the exercise, I think we can avoid the obvious, which is that I've always taken the stance since even JD had me on the first season of this show that all of the original cast members and writers should be locks. Yeah. Just put them in there. They should get in. So people like Chevy, people like Rosie, Tom Schiller, and like they should get in. Someone less obvious to me that should get in is Fred Armisen. 11 seasons on the show. Mm-hmm. Very important to that show, like, merging together when you got new talent into it, fitting in like a glove to other people's sketches, brought a musical, I guess like voice to the show that no cast member ever had before him, brought an international flavor to sketches that I think that cast members before him didn't use as much. He's extremely unique in his case. And I think that he's been around the show so much since he left as a cast member that we never had time to miss him. So that's where I think he doesn't get his shine. But to me, he's, if not top 20, probably top 25 of all time, and is in that next level of cast members behind Cecily and Lovitz that I think definitely should get that push.
I suspect, again, if there was this hypothetical season 8, that he would, gosh, that's his second ballot, I think. I think he'd get in. I think he'd get in if it kept going. like for sure. And I think Rosie too. I think they both got nice bumps. So,
Yeah, Rosie went from 24% all the way to 57. I mean, trending in the right direction, as they say. But yeah.
Hold on, I'm just looking.
That's why Bell too got a huge bump, 22 to 51. So he was headed the right way as well.
Yeah, they were driving down the street, but they hit a dead end.
Yes, that's.
Is there anyone that surprised you in a? I guess there's nobody that surprised you in a good way, because there's three people that got in, and they're the surprises that are in a good way. And we've discussed ad nauseum the things are in a bad way. So I guess we'll go around the table with final takes, and we'll start with our friend Mr. Kenney.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I wish we saw more names going in, especially for a final ballot. But the voters got it right for the three that did make it. I would love to have seen some of the other ones like Parnell and Lorraine and Chevy make it in, but alas, it wasn't to be. This is a strong group, even if it's only three.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's a really strong group. It's just that it's the last one, and we wanted it to, go out with a bang, I suppose. But you're right. There's the small haul, except for season 3, where it was ginormous. Yeah. John, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think this goes back to a conversation you and I had, I don't know, probably in like 2019 or something, like way before you started the show. But I just remember talking to you and meeting you and talking about how it's just a shame that there is no real SNL Hall of Fame. Not that the podcast isn't real, but like one that is, completely run and endorsed by the show. And I think the truth is just the show would never want to gamify, publicly or externally. Like internally, clearly there's that, but externally, I think it promotes a situation that they don't always like to admit is there. So I think, you created a gap here with the Hall of Fame for us to be able to have incredible conversations. And if you're a listener of this podcast, you may not completely agree with who got in year to year. You may not agree with the mechanism, whatever. But I think that what the SNL Hall of Fame did, and what you did, JD, and all of the great contributors, is tell stories. And that's what a Hall of Fame is really all about, whether it's in music, in SNL, in sports, is just be able to share and tell stories so that people understand how we got to this point. And as someone who loves the show, I think you treated it with so much respect, and you gave an opportunity to talk about people from all eras. You had some amazing voices on here. So I think that no matter how you feel about these results following season 7, I think we could be really proud of all of the stories that were told for all of these contributors over the last 7 seasons. So my final take is just a big congratulations to you for everything that you've done over here, and really happy to be a part of it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been tremendous. It was difficult to try and find a different way to talk about SNL. And I remember throwing it back and forth with you, and it was just like, there needs to be one. Like, why isn't there one? Well, we'll do one silly as a podcast, and we'll play make believe that it's real, and we'll have a lot of fun with that. And we did. Shari?
As usual, John and Bill were very succinct and read my mind. I completely agree. I think the 3 that are in are very deserving. I wish there'd been more too. And John put it so well. This podcast really gave an outlet for some terrific stories. I learned so much about so many people, and a chance to see people that I don't think the casual, and I do think casual fans listen to this, and I think they really got an education. Like, I'm sure they didn't know much about Rosie or Zweibel or even like Jack Handy. Deep Thoughts, but you don't know or Smigel. Like, the stuff that their name is on, but you don't realize how intrinsic they were to the building of the show. And JD,
Absolutely,
and everyone who helped, you really gave voice to that. And for that, I thank you. It's been a joy. I've really been thrilled to get in on the end here, and it's just been a lot of fun and met a lot of great people, and yeah, for sure, definitely enhanced my knowledge. I thought I was a big nerd before, but now I'm like double the size I was. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks for being a big part of the SNL Hall of Fame through the water cooler. That's been a lot of fun. And John, thank you for all your support and everything that you've done with the voting calibration and updates in that regard. And just always being around and being supportive. It means a lot. Mr. Kenney, brings us to you, Chief Conversationalist Kenney. You came in when things were dire. There might not have been a seventh season had you not ridden in on your chariot that is a horse pulling that lazy boy, of course. Thanks so much, because all this storytelling business that we're talking about here really rests on the shoulders of the conversationalists. So that would be Thomas and yourself, and that's important. That's important. I don't do the heavy lifting, so I really appreciate all you do and all you bring to the table.
Well,
So
thank you,
that.
JD, and yeah, thank you for trusting the ship with me. I hope I didn't Ted McGinley it, and no, it was an honor when you asked last summer, and I hope I did it well. I enjoyed, as I said, talking to everybody one-on-one about specific people, specific instances, and that's really been rewarding. So thanks for putting this all together and having me on all season.
That's been great. It's been great. And now, as the wrecking ball swings through the hall's north wing, we pause to remember not just those who didn't make the cut, but the spirit of trivia, the sanctity of velvet rope, and whatever was left of the lunchroom. But tonight is a celebration too, because this is the final class of the final show of the SNL Hall of Fame. And even though there's not a wall sturdy enough to hang the plaques on anymore, onward we must trudge. Shari, do you want to tell the audience where they can find more of you?
Well, I'm in any live chat that John and company host, and I really enjoyed the Patreon show last night because got to see so many people that had, like Victor, who's in the chat right now, who is always so friendly and lovely, and to see him in person and just all the different parts of the globe and different ages and everything, that we're all united by this single thing. So I'll definitely be in the live chats. I could show up in an SNL podcast. I'm hinting to anyone I can that I'm happy to be a guest wherever. And maybe I'll end up on my own eventually. There's chatterings, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm just going to be hanging out and happy to guest wherever. And I'm just going to keep listening to everything that's out there.
Bill, how about you?
Well, I moved from my lazy boy over to my point counterpoint with my friend, Mr. Schneider, starting next week with our summer series, The Greatest Episodes of All Time. John's given me the impossible task of watching all 985 episodes before next Monday. I'm not sure I'm going to get there, John. I'm really trying. But yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. There's always a lot of banter, a lot of great guests, a lot of fun in the chat. So you'll find me there all summer long.
Excellent. And John, the head of the Saturday Night Network, what else can you tell us about the wonderful network that you head up?
Well, thank you for having me. In addition to our summer countdown, I'm also very excited that our video series that we do, which is called Everything You Need to Know About Saturday Night Live, and it's sort of like a 20 to 30 minute summary of every season, is returning on June 12th with season 21. So maybe you enjoyed some of these stories here at the SNL Hall of Fame and you want to see more of their sketches and hear about those seasons. We worked really hard on those and we're very excited to have them back throughout the summer, starting with season 21. So 20 are available right now and you can come back for those, and hopefully more interviews. We just did a few SNL stories that we do over at the SNN. Spoke to Fred Armisen, Joe Piscopo, who's on the ballot here. So those two members of the ballot we just spoke to. Had a great conversation with Tim Kazurinsky recently. So John Rudnitsky as well. So there's been some fun ones that we've done over the last little bit if you want to listen to some interviews with some former cast members.
Yeah, if you're not subscribed and have the notifications turned on, what kind of SNL fan are you, for heaven's sake? My goodness. Well, if the light bulbs weren't flickering, I would ask you to walk past the smoldering remnants of the Weekend Update exhibit, and where the light switch used to be, you could turn it out. Because one last time, the SNL Hall of Fame is now closed.
Thanks for listening to the SNL Hall of Fame podcast. Make sure to rate, review, share, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at SNLHOF. This is Kirk Lane saying, this is Kirk Lane saying, see you next week.
Interior, Hall of Fame, basement conversation room, night. The conversation room is dimly lit. The bulbs that do work are flickering. Rubble and overturned furniture scatter the floor. Trophies are cracked, plaques hang askew, and Bill's lazy boy is a smoldering heap of ash. The air is thick with dust and the scent of nostalgia. Even the water cooler is cracked. The SNL Hall of Fame is in ruins. Bill stands silently in the corner, staring sadly at the wreckage. JD, softly from across the room.
Hey, Bill. What are you still doing here? This place has been condemned.
Bill shakes his head.
I'm not sure, JD. I know I'm new around here, but I'm going to miss this place.
JD, measured pause.
Me too, Bill.
Beat.
Me too.
A smile forms across JD's face.
Wait, what if there was a... Bill? What would you say to a new lazy boy?
Bill, eyes narrowing hopefully.
I'm listening.
To be continued?
To podcasts and such.